Jujutsu Kaisen chapter 264 has just released and it is absolutely fire. And that is why I am making this video, because I haven't talked about Jujutsu Kaisen in quite some time, but this time around I had to come out of the woodworks and speak my mind, because like I said, the chapter is gas. So we start things off with Jacob's ladder. You know, this attack did a lot of damage to Sukuna back in the past, but this time around, he seemingly tanks it. You know, at least that's how I understood it, right? You know, Hannah hits him with the Jacob's ladder, he's caught off guard, and as he's getting hit, he jumps from rubble to rubble and makes his way all the way up to Hannah at the top. And it's like, damn, dude, last time we saw this hit him, he was screaming in agony. So it's kind of crazy that he actually tanks this. You know, he goes up, he tries to attack Hannah, and that is when Todo jumps in, though. You know, Todo tanks the Black Flash for her, and they both get sent flying away. And what's kind of cool about this is that, you know, he always does this for notable characters, but he looks at Todo and he's like, hey, this guy is a Jujutsu Kaisen sorcerer. Well, he doesn't say that. He just says Jujutsu sorcerer, but I added the Kaisen in there too. But yeah, it's pretty funny. You know, like, I love how whenever he sends a character away, he always gives them their flowers, right? He complimented Higuruma, he complimented Maki. Like, dude, this guy's the complimenter, essentially. You know, change his name up a little bit. He's over here damn near singing the praises of everybody except for Yuji, which I think is going to change come next chapter. So before we get to the, you know, the final plot point, just to go along with the rest of the spoilers that came out, turns out that Yuji ends up appearing right behind Sukuna because he's been following him throughout Jacob's ladder as well. He tries to attack him from behind, and Yuji, throughout this whole chapter, until the very end, of course, is constantly trying to break his footwork, right? Which I think is pretty smart. So we see Yuji versus Sukuna for quite some time. They're throwing each other through buildings, punching each other, and then that is when we get the lead up to Yuji's domain expansion. I know, I'm cutting straight to the chase, but yeah, Yuji activates his domain expansion. He throws up the hand sign and everything, and he sends Sukuna to the motherfucking train yard. And it's pretty cool. You know, like, I've seen people talking online, so none of these ideas are exactly mine and unique, but people are saying, yo, a lot of people have been hitting that airport in the last couple chapters, but Yuji sent this guy to the train yard. And then people also pointed out that Yuji's hand sign for his domain expansion has to do with aborted fetuses, guardian deities fighting evil spirits, and apparently there's even some lore around it where it has to do with the guy who suffered throughout his entire life, but he just wants to help people. Kind of like Yuji. You know, whether or not any or all of those are true, I'm not exactly sure. I haven't exactly done my research, but I wouldn't be surprised. And the reason why is because this hand sign has been teased before in the manga and in the anime. Now, not to mention, Yuji's domain expansion with him sending Sukuna to the train yard also falls in line with Season 1's opening, where Yuji is literally sitting on a train, and then you see his face flash to the Sukuna markings, right? And while it seems like a small detail or just a quirky little opening, it's not. Because in Yuji's domain expansion, in this barrier, you literally see Sukuna revert back to, I don't know what people call him, like Yujina or Yuji Kuna, something like that. But yeah, it's insane. We don't really know why he was brought back to that form, considering the fact that he's still in Megumi's body, and even outside of Megumi's body, he should just be in his Heinin era form. So it's like, wait, why is he like this? Why is he like his Season 1 self? So there's a lot of questions here, and I'm here to spout my wild ideas, because now I'm kind of entering in on things I thought of on my own, and of course, it mainly has to do with Yuji separating Sukuna's soul from Megumi's, which isn't a foreign concept since that is something Sukuna said in this chapter that he's afraid of. So I think by bringing this domain expansion out and guaranteeing that hit, I think Yuji is in the process of separating their souls. And I don't even know if Sukuna knows it's going on. I mean, maybe he does, you know, he's a smart guy, so I wouldn't be surprised if he's like, hey, I gotta break out of this as soon as possible. But yeah, I feel like Sukuna being in his Season 1 Yuji form is kind of a hint at that. And another thing to take alongside this is that even if this isn't the case immediately, this can still happen over the course of this battle, right? Yuji could simply attack Sukuna's soul, and since they're within his domain expansion, everything is a guaranteed hit. So Megumi should be feeling a lot right now. You know, he probably knows what the hell is going on even. I wouldn't even be super shocked at that. But yeah, as it stands right now, Yuji and Sukuna are having their one-on-one battle, and I personally do believe this is not the finale of the fight, but it's in its last like 10%, in its last spread. Because when you think about JJK, we've essentially ran through the entirety of the roster, almost every notable character in the series has had their chance to fight Sukuna, except for Hikari, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. I mean, Hikari's fighting Uraume, so that's whatever. We haven't seen that fight in quite some time. But, you know, Hikari's off in his own battle. I think that's the one thing that a lot of fans wanted. Just Hikari coming in here and, you know, throwing a couple of punches towards Sukuna, seeing how he's going to deal with the Restless Gambler. I feel like that would have been a lot of fun. But even if that doesn't happen, I do think Hikari versus Uraume is going to be a W in and of itself. Right? As long as Gege doesn't 100% off-screen it, I think we're going to get some good stuff out of it. So yeah, Yuji versus Sukuna, they're in their own little domain now, and I'm very curious to see how this is going to go down. Because while I do think they are going to keep on throwing fists and, you know, fight to the death, I also see this as being a moment of reflection. And I know that sounds absolutely stupid, and I have seen people memeing about Yuji giving Sukuna the Taka no Jutsu, but I feel like that might be a possibility, or at least for a little while. Because the thing with Sukuna is that we still don't know too much about him. You know, he has an entire backstory that we haven't seen. Not like we need to, but I feel like we could have a heart-to-heart between these characters, and if it were to happen, it would be right here, right now, at the start of this domain expansion. And plus, not to mention, but at the end of this chapter, Yuji isn't, like, throwing punches towards him, right? Yuji walks up, and he's like, hey, Sukuna, are you ready to get this started? So, you know, it's kind of like he's walking into a therapist's office. Like, that's kind of the vibe I'm getting from this. Going back to the airport analogy, when we were at the airport, they weren't fighting, they weren't doing things. I mean, we had freaking Toji in the background, he was chilling. So, you know, seeing Sukuna here in the train station, I do think that we are going to talk to him for a little bit, and then we're going to fight. The only real problem I have with this idea, though, is that I don't know how long he can keep this up. Because a lot of domain expansions have a, quote, time limit, or it drains cursed energy very quickly. So, you know, if they waste their time doing a Taka no Jutsu, and then Yuji's domain breaks by the end of it, I think that's going to be a complete fumble. But hey, who knows? Maybe having a talk or a heart-to-heart is what this domain expansion is all about. So yeah, I think there's a lot of possibilities here, and I think it's pretty cool that we see Gojo again, which I honestly find pretty funny, because the guy's dead. You know, he's not coming back to life. Gege pretty much said that at the art exhibition this year. So yeah, you know, Gojo is 100% kaput, but Gege can't let him go. He keeps on bringing him back in these small little scenes when we learn about characters powering up, or we get certain explanations. And yeah, they actually do explain why Yuji is able to use the domain expansion. Personally, I feel like they didn't need to go into detail, but it's nice that they gave us that. They're like, hey, you know, when Yuji swapped into Kusakabe's body during training, that is where he learned all about barriers. And then, of course, thanks to Gojo and his, quote, guidance, Yuji was able to master it. So I guess the main question for me right now is whether or not the rest of the Jujutsu Kaisen sorcerers knew that Yuji could activate his domain expansion and land it on Sukuna. Was this a part of their 1 month plan, or no? Was this ad-libbed, right? Is this something Yuji learned on the fly and he didn't tell anybody? I think there's a couple of questions when it comes to that, and the main reason I'm asking it is because if this is calculated, then I wouldn't be shocked if this domain breaks, outside of the domain are the rest of the sorcerers or more people ready to fight. Because, you know, just going back to Yuta's domain expansion, right when it broke, Maki was ready to jump in, right? Like, that's just kind of how it is. People are just always ready to go one after another. So I guess that's kind of why I'm curious, but I do think this is the end of the fight. I feel like Yuji is definitely going to beat Sukuna here. I think it's a very fitting scenario. You know, we even have the season 1 throwback with Yuji Kuna, whatever you want to call him. And yeah, I thought this is an overall great chapter. Hopefully we see some Megumi next chapter, right? Now that everything is guaranteed to hit, we know that Megumi's going to have to wake the hell up, right? He's going to have to wake the hell up and or tell Yuji to F off. I think one of those things is going to happen for sure, and I would love to hear what you guys have to say about this. And yeah, I think we'll be doing more Jujutsu Kaisen videos since it is nearing its end, and it is one of my favorite mangas out there. I think it's a lot of fun, and this chapter did not disappoint. But yeah, I'll catch you guys later. My name is Sai, and I'm signing out. Peace.